Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for EarthEcho's STEMExplore Virtual Career Connection, featuring Shavonti Archer, Transmission Line Engineer at Engineered Design Services in Orlando, Florida. My name is Casey. I'm the Programs Manager at EarthEcho International, and we are so excited to have students joining us from all over the globe to learn about sustainable and exciting careers in science, technology, engineering, and math. This live event is part of STEMExplore, EarthEcho's program that brings inspiration to life by telling the stories of dynamic female professionals in STEM careers during live virtual connections. We want to thank our founding sponsor, United Technologies, for their support of women in STEM. Here at EarthEcho, we believe that youth have the power to change the planet. Visit www.earthecho.org to learn more about our programs. You can also access resources like STEMExplore's career profile videos, as well as tune in for upcoming virtual events just like this one. I'd like to thank STEMExplore's partner sites across the country, and I do want to say hello to those of us who are joining us today. Now, we do have a couple of live sites that are on video with us, and why don't we head over to the east coast of Florida to Green Acres to get a hello with our partners with Primetime Palm Beach County. Hello, Green Acres. How is everyone? Hi, wonderful to see you all. We're so excited to talk with you today. Now let's head a little bit further north to Marion, Iowa, and we have our friends at Excelsior Middle School representing our partners with Medco Iowa. Hello, Iowa. How is everyone?
Great.
Wonderful to see you. We're so excited that everyone could join us. Now, we also have folks watching our live stream on YouTube as well as our websites, and we even have students joining our live stream in San Antonio, Texas, in Honolulu, Hawaii. So welcome to everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. Now, just a reminder that anybody out there can interact with us during this live virtual program. You can send in questions for our STEM expert, Shavonti, via chat, and we will break throughout today's presentation to see if you have any questions. So you can start chatting those questions in. If you're on YouTube, use that chat space on the right. If you're on this live Zoom event, go ahead and use that chat space now. But our friends in Florida and Iowa, we will be going to live video for your questions as we move along throughout today's presentation. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to welcome our special guest for EarthEcho's STEMExplore Virtual Career Connection, Shavonti Archer. Hello, Shavonti.
Hi. Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing so great. How are you?
Good, doing well. We're so excited to have you back, Shavonti. Shavonti was a STEMExplore mentor last year, and her program was so popular that we asked her to come back. But Shavonti has some great career developments this year too. So for those of you tuning in who may have spoken to Shavonti last year, we have lots of updates for you. So just to get everyone started, I would like to formally introduce Shavonti. She is a skilled engineer by trade, advocating for diversity within the engineering community. She founded Systematic Motivation in 2018, a company whose primary focus is creating more opportunities for minority students to explore their interest in STEM programs and encourage their desire to pursue a career in those STEM programs. Shavonti is born and raised in Locust Grove, Georgia, where she attended Luella High School, and she quickly discovered her love for engineering as a 10th grade student, and we're going to hear a lot more about that. She was instantly captivated by videos of solar and wind farms, and Shavonti is a thought leader with a passion for giving back. And Systematic Motivation, which we will also hear more about, further supports the idea that engineers are not limited to a certain look or color. Though the industry is dominated by those who are not minorities, there's still room for pioneers from other communities, and that's what we're here to talk about. So Shavonti will tell us more about her career, tell us more about Systematic Motivation. So to start things off, Shavonti, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about what it is that you do for work. So let's start off with that engineering focus.
Awesome. And thank you so much for that amazing introduction. So like she said, I am a transmission line engineer, meaning these beautiful poles that you see behind me, I actually design. So on the left-hand side, you'll see steel, and on the other side, you will see concrete poles. When I was a little girl, I never imagined in a million years that I would be standing next to something as giant and as magnificent as these transmission towers. I know you're probably wondering, what in the world is a transmission tower? Well, transmission towers are actually the bigger poles and wires that turns the energy from the substation and sends this energy to your homes, your schools, your parents' works. That's what I design. So I design high voltage power lines in a computer, on a computer, and then linemen actually construct them and put them out in the field. I've been doing this now about 3 years. I'm going into my third year of doing it, and I absolutely love it. My favorite part, I would say, is being able to design something and then actually being able to go to the field and see it live.
Awesome. Thank you, Shavonti. So we did mention your other group, Systematic Motivation. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So Systematic Motivation is my baby. I was working for an amazing company as an engineer, as a transmission and a distribution engineer. And we had so many great programs and outreach programs to talk to the youth, to talk to parents about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. And one day I just felt that we didn't do it as often as I would have liked. So I said, you know what? If it's not there, I'm going to create it. So I started Systematic Motivation in my own image, my own brand, to touch students in a way and to inspire students in a way that I felt helped me. And it was by having hands-on experience. It was by seeing women and men who maybe looked like me or came from a similar background. That's what motivated me. So that's what I want to give back to students. So as you can see, I have completely tried to take over South Florida. I have spoken to so many kids in West Palm, in Boca, in Fort Lauderdale, in Miami, in Orlando, and I have the 4-H club here. I have another middle school class. You probably can't even see me because I'm the same size as the student. But we talk about STEM. We do STEM activities. In the bottom corner, in the bottom middle picture, you'll see a little motor. I actually taught students on my YouTube channel how to build a motor and taught them about the magnetic field and how that magnetic field gets the motor to turn. So Systematic Motivation has been a godsend for me. It allows me to still do engineering, but also to give back to the community. And I absolutely love that. And as you can see, like all the kids are like super happy and super smiling. I get really positive feedback that the kids really enjoyed it. So I hope it's not too boring learning about STEM. I hope you guys like it too.
Love it. And we will tell folks a little bit more about how they can learn more about Systematic Motivations and how they can tune into your YouTube channel closer towards the end of the program. But I do want to kind of go back to what it is. If you could just kind of expand a little bit more about what you've done in the recent past with your engineering career, that would be fantastic. And then we'll start talking a little bit more of the realities of doing what you do.
Okay, perfect. So designing transmission poles, as you guys can see, these are humongous structures. These are humongous poles. And we have to be very careful of where we put them. We have to make sure that these poles aren't put in places where there's a lot of wildlife. We have to make sure that we're not putting these poles in places where there's a lot of wetlands, like a lot of water. Or sea life nearby. We have to make sure that we are, helping our community by providing power, by providing electricity to your homes, but we have to make sure we're doing it in a safe and environmentally friendly way. So in these pictures, you can see in one of the pictures where it's kind of a lot of dirt when I have on the yellow vest. Even though it looks like that, once that job is completely finished, they go back and they resod, meaning they put the grass back where it was to make sure that that environment stays as intact as it possibly can. So my job is to not only make sure that what I'm installing and what I'm designing is environmentally friendly, but I have to make sure that it's also safe to work around, to work near, that it's safe for the turtles, that it's safe for the people, that it's safe for the cattle that may be in the area as well. And also the eagles. We have a huge eagle protection permit that's in place to make sure that we are abiding by all of the rules to make sure that, you know, we're not hurting anything. So it takes a lot in designing it, but we totally try to make sure that it's designed to all of our standards. So that's basically what I do and how I try to make sure that it's sustainable and that we're thinking about the turtles, the animals, the bugs, the grass, the dirt, everything.
So when you're talking about, so transmission lines, that's definitely a major part of your job. Have you ever worked on any other modes of energy or other structures?
Yes, I've actually worked in distribution lines as well. Distribution poles are the smaller poles that may be, you know, on the roads or in your neighborhoods, like the wood poles. I've also worked on those. Now, the difference is the voltage. So the poles that were in the picture, those are like 500 kilovolts of energy. The poles that are in your neighborhoods are way less, way less. So that's about 7,000 volts of energy. So that's pretty much the difference between the two. When power generation is created, when the power is created, it's sent to towers that you see here. Once those towers sends it to your neighborhoods and your schools and your homes, that voltage has to decrease tremendously so that, you know, no one's shocked or anything like that. So that's kind of the difference in scale between the transmission wires and the distribution wires. Does that make a little bit more sense?
It does. It definitely does. So with that, when we're talking about this particular career in engineering, specifically your field, what are some realities? For example, what could a student expect to make? What kind of paycheck would they take home?
That is a great question, and I get that question a lot. So as you can see, mechanical, which is what I am, mechanical engineers can make anywhere from $68,000 to $108,000, $115,000 a year. So let me break that down per month about how much we could bring home. We could bring home anywhere from $4,000 a month up to $10,000 a month. So that's the scale of how much money that this major or this career field can give you. Now, remember, with much money comes much responsibility. So don't look at the numbers like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. You have to make sure that it's something that you absolutely enjoy, because there's going to be long nights. There's going to be times where you're stressed out and you're like, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? But it's going to be all worth it if it's your true passion.
That's great. And with that, and we'll talk more about your schooling and kind of your path to engineering, but just to tease that a little bit or to introduce it, how long did you go to school? And because I do want to put, there are some
reality checks.
There are other realities. So talking about how long it takes to go through schooling and how much that schooling costs, and maybe financial aid or scholarships that people might not be aware of, or organizations that might be there to help.
That's a great question. So I'm from Georgia. I think we mentioned that already. So I was able to be a Hope Scholarship recipient, meaning I had above a 3.0 GPA. So my academic schooling was paid for by my scholarship every semester. In total, it cost me about, on the low end, $30,000 to obtain my mechanical engineering degree. So in that $30,000, that was scholarships, that was grants, and that was also student loans. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with student loans, But if you can avoid student loans and get as many scholarships and grants as you possibly can, if you choose to go to school, I would suggest it. Now, out of that student loans, you don't have to start paying on your student loans until after you graduate and you get a job. So that's the good part. It took me about 5 years to complete my degree. One, because I had an internship with a General Electric, a really great engineering company, and I had another internship with another company in Florida. So it's really good to have that experience and to do those internships, but it will kind of push your timeline of graduation back. And that's totally fine. If it takes you 5 years, if it takes you 4 years to graduate, 6 years, whatever, as long as you do what you came to do, you study hard, you make good grades and you graduate, that's all that matters.
That's great. Thank you. So now I think it's a good time, since we do have some of our video sites that are here, our partner sites, as well as some folks that have joined us on the Zoom and on the YouTube streams. I want to open it up for questions, since Shavonti kind of told us a little bit about what it is that she does as an engineer, a little bit of background on that, and we'll get into a little bit more details about her journey into engineering. But I do want to open it up for questions. So why don't we go ahead and go to our first site in Green Acres, Florida, with primetime Palm Beach County, and see if our friends over on the East Coast of Florida have any questions for us. So Green Acres, do you have any questions?
Well, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question.
What was your favorite part about engineering?
What was the question?
What was your favorite part about engineering?
Oh, that's your favorite part about engineering. That's a great question.
That's a great question. My favorite part about engineering is being able to design something on a computer. I'm on my computer, so I would have showed you guys, but to design it on my computer, making sure the tensions are correct, making sure the heights are correct, making sure that the weight is correct, and then going and seeing it in the field and it's exactly as I pictured it. That's my favorite part, being able to make it a reality. I love that. I love that.
That's great. Green Acres, do we have another question?
Yeah, one more.
One more, okay.
My first question is engineering fun?
Oh, that's a good question.
And
yes.
do you like your job?
Oh, another good question. Engineering can be so much fun. I get to travel all the time. I get to meet new people all the time, and it's super flexible. Do I love what I do? Yes, absolutely. The fact that I get to work and design any time of the day, and then I also get to talk to you, and you're so pretty, by the way. The fact that I get to talk to you and talk to students all over the world with the flexibility that I have, I absolutely love it. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's great. Great questions, Green Acres. And we'll come back to you. So don't worry. Keep those questions written down and coming. We will come back to you. So let's hop up to Marion, Iowa, to Excelsior Middle School. Do we have any questions up there in Iowa with our partners at Medco? Oh,
Hi.
Hi. How old were you when you first started your job?
Oh, I was 20. Okay, so I started my job out of college at 23, but I actually started working as an engineer during my internship at 20 years old. Yeah, so it was during, I was so nervous, I was so scared, and I'm only like 5 foot. So like all of these adults, and they're like, "You're not gonna tell me what to do." And I'm like, "Actually, I am." So that was pretty exciting. It was a little nerve-wracking, but it was exciting. Great question.
Great question. Do we have another question out there at Excelsior?
what made you want to do engineering?
Oh, that's a great question. So in the 10th grade, and we're probably going to talk about this later too, but in the 10th grade, my teacher showed us a video about wind farms and solar farms. And it was like something out of, a futuristic movie. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to be an engineer. And I never would have guessed that I would work for a company that designs solar farms and wind farms, the exact same thing I saw in the 10th grade. It's so crazy. Great question.
Good question. And for those of you watching the live stream, don't forget you can chat us in questions either on YouTube or on Zoom, whichever place that you are watching live. Excelsior, do you have another question before we keep on going? Perfect.
How hard was it for you to find a good job?
Ooh, that's such a great question. So a lot of times people think when you get a degree, when you get your bachelor's degree and whatever, that you're going to get a job automatically. It does not work like that. Unfortunately, you have to have a little bit of experience, maybe an internship. And a lot of people don't realize you have to have above a 3.0 GPA. If you decide to go to college and you're in high school, you guys are in high school and middle school, if you decide to go to college and you want to party and you want to sleep all day and you think that you can get by with like a 2.0 or 2.5 GPA, you might can pass and graduate, but companies, they really look at that. They really look at that. So after graduating, it only took me 6 months to get a job, but I had friends who it took 2 years to find a job and they were an engineer. 2 years, 2 years because they didn't have the GPA above a 3.0 and they didn't have any experience. So it was kind of like, what are you really offering? So you have to make sure if you're going to go to college, you're going to study, you're going to put in the time, because if you want a really, really great job, you have to have good GPA and don't sleep all day.
Great advice. Great advice. Now, for all of our sites out there, we do have a question coming in from the chat. So one question we have from our friends in Honolulu, Hawaii is, how much math do you need? What subjects do you recommend students take in high school if they want to become an engineer? And what type of classes did you take in college? So we'll cover this question and then we'll move on to talk a little bit more about your background, because this is a really good one. So let's start off with,
a great question.
How much math do you need?
A lot of math. I will be honest. It is a lot of math. So my 10th grade year, my sophomore year in high school, I knew that I wanted to take calculus my senior year. So that was 3 years, I had time to prep. Well, I found out in my sophomore year that I wasn't on the right track to be able to take calculus. And I said, oh my God, I really didn't know what calculus was, but it sounded smart and I wanted to do it. So my 10th grade year, my teacher said, if you want to take calculus, this is what you have to do. I doubled in math my 10th grade year, taking honors algebra and honors geometry, so that my junior year, I could take trigonometry, and my senior year, I could take calculus. So that was a lot of math in high school. And then in college, it expanded and it grew even more. So it's a lot of math. And those are the classes too. I think that doubles. Those are the classes too that I recommend if you are thinking about going into engineering. If you can take trigonometry, if you can take calculus as soon as possible. My husband is from the Bahamas and he started taking algebra and calculus in like the 8th grade. And I was like, what? So yes, I definitely recommend as soon as you can, if that's something that you want to do, trigonometry, algebra, calculus, get those out of the way.
So are there any other classes in high school that you would recommend students take?
Yes, I took, now, of course, I'm not going to tell you guys my age, but when I was in my 12th grade year, my senior year of high school, we had an engineering course. We had a drafting course. And I know right now, there's so many engineering or STEM related programs that you can take. I would take them all. If you're interested in it, take it. When I took a drafting course, you guys, it was literally like 2008, 2009, and we had to use a pencil and pen and paper and draw different engineering mechanics and draw different engineering like gears and things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to draw. I don't think this is for me. But I remember that video and I was like, no, I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm gonna keep drawing until I can't draw anymore. So any kind of STEM class, any kind of robotics teams or robotics, what do they call extracurricular you can do, I would do that for sure.
Awesome. And I know there was another question about what classes did you take in college, but why don't we save that until a little bit later on? And why don't you tell us a little bit more about where you grew up and basically how your interest in engineering came about?
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I grew up in a very, very, very small town called Locust Grove, Georgia. You can see, like, that's my backyard in the picture with myself, my cousins, and my grandma. It's literally the kind of town that when we first got a Walmart, we were super excited. Like, it was like the talk of the town. That's how small it was. And like I said, in the 10th grade, when I watched the video of the solar farms and the wind farms, I just knew, like, I can do this. I want to be a part of this. And it just kind of stuck. I had so many positive inspirers around me that were encouraging me to go for it. They were encouraging me to do it. Even though it was going to be a challenge, they said, you know what, you're smart, you can do this. And I did. Yes, there were some nights when I cried. Yes, there were some nights when I said, you know what, this is just too hard. I just want to go out and party with my friends. And I said, you know what, no, I have a goal and I'm going to accomplish it. I did.
Awesome. And here is a look at where Shavonti is now. She is based in Orlando, Florida, which a lot of people are familiar with. If you visited Florida, a lot of people go to Orlando because of the attractions there. But as she said, she grew up in Locust Grove and then attended Georgia Southern University. So you were driven, you got into college and you stuck through your engineering courses. Do you want to tell us a little bit more? Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe extracurricular activities that you were involved in that maybe helped to either spark an interest or even lay some professional groundwork?
Yes. So my junior year in high school, I was actually introduced to the Society of Women Engineers at the Georgia Tech campus. And Georgia Tech is like a really, really, really huge engineering university in Atlanta. So being able to meet those women at an early age and say, hey, man, they're doing this, I can totally do this too. And also being on the cheerleading team, doing extracurricular activities like student government, beta club, French club, all of those organizations and clubs were really the building blocks to get me where I am now with, learning how to manage my time, learning how to manage interacting with people, learning how, to manage trying to juggle multitasking, trying to, juggle many things at one time. It was tough. It was really tough. But I was living with my grandmother and my grandma would say, anytime the school doors open, you're the first one in there and the last one out. And that's legit what it was. I love school. I love learning. I love my friends. I was raised an only child. So school was like my only time to get to socialize and talk to everybody. So that's kind of where my building blocks were formed, like being at school, being in so many clubs. And I don't know if you guys have Beta Club anymore. I don't know if that's still a thing, but Beta Club was basically if you had a certain GPA, you received like an invitation to join the club. And, we would go on different conferences and different things like that. It was a lot of fun.
And I think that's really important to kind of have a nice, talking about the coursework, having nice, well-rounded courses to kind of make you a well-rounded citizen, and that way preparing you professionally. But also when you think about extracurricular activities in schools, going, of course, like where your strengths are, you know, if you're into sports, fantastic, because you will glean and learn lessons from part of a sports team, but also taking advantage and not being afraid to take advantage of certain clubs that might be available to you, like Beta Club, reaching out and checking out, like the Society for Women Engineers is great. And then just like our folks that are tuning in, all of our partner sites, they're all part of after school programs and STEM clubs. So that's something that's really good, where you can just, you know, spend a little time to learn different things, learn what's out there, but also learn other people. And all of that will help you kind of prepare professionally and make you a little bit well-rounded and balanced, if you will.
I love that. Yes, for sure.
So with that, Shavonti, why don't we talk about how you really got into your career, and you did mention some internships. So why don't you talk about kind of those stepping stones of getting to be a mechanical engineer?
Okay, so like I said earlier, with Society of Women Engineers, it was a program that was at Georgia Tech. And I didn't attend Georgia Tech. I attended Georgia Southern. So when I got to Georgia Southern, I found out that there was a Society of Women Engineers on campus. So I immediately joined, of course. And by being in that society was basically how I was able to get all of my internships. I applied at our Society of Women Engineers conferences, and I was able to get the intern. So at General Electric, I was actually a manager at 20 years old, managing people. Oh my gosh. I was a manager of the dishwasher assembly line. So I was, making sure like the people were assembling everything correctly. If there were any fights or any kind of conflict that broke out, I was the person who they came to try to resolve that issue. So not only was I learning the mechanics behind how to put together a dishwasher, but I was also learning how to manage people, how to resolve conflicts, things that you wouldn't have never thought that you would get from an internship. And then after that, I moved over to, went to college, graduated, and I started working at the company Florida Power and Light, which is where the wind farms and the solar farms are located. And I absolutely loved it. I first tried to attend Georgia Tech University, and I got rejected, and my little whole world just crumbled before my eyes. And I said, you know what? It's okay. It has to be something else out there. And that's where Georgia Southern came in. And it's been such an amazing experience, like meeting friends, long-term friends, and being able to go to General Electric, being able to go to Rayonier Performance Fibers in Florida, where it was my second internship. It's been absolutely a dream come true.
And with your internships, so I know a lot of folks can get experience through volunteering and through internships. That's a great way to kind of start looking into any careers that you might have an interest in, is try and find a local connection and start volunteering locally, or try and start interning, which I know can be difficult if you're as young as in high school, for example, because a lot of those opportunities are for college students. Now, in my experience with talking with a number of engineers, were those internships paid?
Yes.
They were?
Very surprisingly, because a lot of internships at, 18, 19 years old, and at minimum, to kind of give you guys like understanding, minimum wage, like if you work at like McDonald's or somewhere like that, you make like $7 an hour. Maybe it's $8 an hour, depending on where you live. Well, as a 19-year-old intern, I was making $17 an hour.
Wow.
It completely blew my mind. I completely blew it, of course, because I didn't have good, financial management skills so young, but it was a lot of money. It was a complete shock.
Wow, that's really interesting because my background, I'm from kind of the marine science world and biological sciences. And our experience, my personal experience with that is when we interned, you were not paid. And so a lot of people were working their full-time internship job without pay. And either hopefully you had savings, maybe you had a little nest egg that you were trying to help sustain yourself off of, but a lot of people worked part-time jobs at night. You know, they would go and serve at a restaurant. So thinking about that and being wise about your choices, and especially those financial choices as well, is super important to start learning at any age, really, is just kind of being responsible with your money and the money that you're making, even if it does seem like a shock and it might be a lot of money at first. Just be wise about it. Same thing with student loans. Just really think about those things. So Shavonti, I know that you worked at Florida Power and Light for a number of years, and I know that your passion, you really, really love renewable energy. So here at EarthEcho, we believe that we can act now for a sustainable future. So can you tell us a little bit more about how your engineering has contributed to a sustainable future and kind of where that passion lies?
Yes. So the company that I currently am working for, I've been working here now about 2 months. It is Engineering Design Services, and we do pretty much the same thing I did at Florida Power and Light. We design up to a standard that is just amazing. Right now, I'm designing transmission lines in Illinois and in Missouri. Now, I won't get to actually touch those and see them myself, but I can maybe take a trip up there one day. But the things that we had to worry about in Florida, like eagles and birds and wildlife, well, it's a different kind of environment in Illinois and Missouri. Now I have to worry about mountain lions or, you know, the snow and different other environmental elements that I had no idea we were even thinking about, because the terrain in Florida is so different than the terrain in Illinois and Missouri up north. So we are doing designs that make sure that we're preventing any kind of pollution, that we're minimizing waste. We're trying to make sure that what we design is used at a very minimum basis. And I absolutely love it. Some companies, I want to say, they're still trying to get up to date with that kind of technology, making sure that they're not building an entire transmission line through, you know, a reserved area that no one should be touching. So it's different things like that. We have to make sure that we're facilitating everything to be as environmentally friendly as possible.
Great, thank you. So now I think that's a great time to see what other questions we have. So why don't we head to our STEMExplore partner sites? It looks like we had some folks at Green Acres possibly step out, but I know that there are a few people in the room. So Green Acres, we're gonna head on over to you on the East Coast of Florida. Do we have any questions for Shavonti at Green Acres?
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Hey, come on.
Oh yeah. Do you work with people mostly, or do you mostly work by yourself?
Oh, that's a great question. So I work with a team of about 12 people. So there are actually more women than there are men. It's a very funny situation.
All right.
Yeah, I work with about 12 people, and about 7 to 8 of those are women. And it's a great, I do get to work by myself sometimes too. Great question.
Good question. Green Acres, do we have another question?
You have a question?
No.
Yeah, you have another one?
No.
Let me get Janina's question.
It was
Oh, perfect.
to
Did she already ask someone? Grab the other number. Grab that. Bring that number. No, the one in your hand, Mama. Oh, she wanted, one of the students that stepped out wanted to know, do you, what? Oh, do you speak more than one language?
Oh, that's a great question.
That's a great question. So
I don't know what the S says.
I know un poquito español,
Okay.
and I know a little French, but not a lot. But I want to learn Spanish. I really want to learn Spanish. I started Rosetta Stone and it was awesome, but I got so consumed with work that I couldn't keep up with it. So that's on my to-do list.
That's great. Thank you, Green Acres, for your questions. I do want to hop over to our partners in Marion, Iowa at Medco, Iowa, and to see if they have any other questions that we could answer. So, Excelsior Middle School, do we have a question?
Was school hard for you when you were going through the years?
That's a great question. Was
That's a
school
great
hard?
question.
And this might even lend into our other question that we have. Did you find any maybe courses that were challenging for you?
Yes, yes. I'm going to be super, super, super honest. School was not easy for me. Although I got, decent grades, good grades in some classes, school was hard. There were times when I failed tests. There were times when I forgot to do homework because I had so much extracurricular activities going on, cheerleading and all these clubs. So there were times when I dropped the ball, but I had to pay for those, I had to pay for those mistakes. And it was hard. I'm not gonna fib it. And in college, oh my gosh, y'all, college was hard. I'm not gonna act like, oh, it's all easy and butterfly. No, you have to study. You have to study. You have to take the time out and make sure that you understand. Me and my professor, we were like this. I was like, okay, class is over. I'm like, but look, I need for you to go back over this. I need you to go back over this. I need you to go back over this, because I wanted to make sure that I understood, because things didn't come easy for me. So I had to make sure that I understood and learned, because if you're not going to help you, nobody else is going to help you. It is your responsibility to get your education.
That is a really good point, Shavonti. And one thing I do want to point out, something that I think about is a lot of times, say before a big test, there would be study sessions or question Q&A time that your professor would set aside. And I can't tell you how many times I did not take advantage of those when I could have. So just kind of going that extra mile, taking that extra hour, going in to get a little bit of extra help if you are finding difficulties, to just try and push through and persevere. Because if you are driven, you will definitely, if you set your mind to it, you will succeed. That's great.
Yes,
do we have another question at Excelsior?
Oh, I can't hear you.
Say that real nice and loud.
I'm sorry. Can you hear her, Casey?
One more time, real nice and loud.
Your teachers, who else helped you?
Oh, besides your teachers, who else helped you? This is great.
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. My friends. I lived with my grandmother growing up in high school, and my grandma, she did not even finish high school. So there was no way she was going to help me with my homework. She was going to help me with my project. She was like, girl, I don't know what that is. Go and talk to your teacher to see if she can help you. And I got so much help from my teachers. And if my teachers couldn't help me, or if it was after school, I would go to my friends. I had so many friends in my classes. I was like, hey, do you remember how to do, problem 76 on the board? And they would either say yes or no. But yeah, I reached out to my friends a lot, and vice versa. They could reach out to me too.
Great questions, Excelsior. Another question that I do have that just came up is, what is an internship?
Ooh, okay. So like Casey said earlier, an internship is basically the opportunity to work for a company as if you're working for the company full time. Now that internship is more so geared towards experience and education. So you may not get paid for it, but some internships you can get paid for it. So for instance, I took an internship as a mechanical engineer. I worked as a mechanical engineer, even though I didn't have the degree yet. So an internship is basically it's like kind of teaching you and showing you what it is, while either you're getting paid for it or you may not. You're getting paid may just be the experience and the knowledge that you're obtaining from that internship.
And I would say internships are a great way to figure out if what you want to do is in fact what you want to do. It's basically a job shadow, but you know, you're working alongside everyone. That's great. Now, Excelsior, I think we need to wrap up, but I think we might have one more question there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
How did you balance your homework with the extracurricular activities?
That's good. How do you balance homework with extracurricular activities?
That's a great question. So back then when I was in high school, I had about a 2-hour gap, maybe an hour gap from the time school was out until the time it was time for me to go to either French club or cheerleading practice. During that hour or that 2-hour time frame, I would get as much homework as I possibly could done. So when I got home, I could talk to my friends or I could read a book and I could just have a good time. I will say homeroom was another great time for me to get homework done. So if anyone uses homeroom to take naps or to talk to your friends, no, homeroom is for you to make sure that you're prepared for your day. So I would definitely take advantage of homeroom too. I got a lot of work done during homeroom.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shavonti. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And of course, a huge thank you to Shavonti Archer for joining us today. You can keep in touch with Shavonti and follow her on social media. Again, Systematic Motivation is the group that she runs outside of work to inspire students to go into STEM careers. Yes. I do, of course, again, want to thank all of our STEMExplore partner sites that have tuned in live today. Green Acres and Excelsior Middle School, great job, great questions, everyone. And everyone else out there that have tuned in for our live streams, I hope you have enjoyed this time with us today. And everybody had fantastic questions. Now, EarthEcho has some exciting opportunities coming up. STEMExplore will continue to feature women in STEM careers with our virtual career connections. We have several live events slated for this month and on into November, as well as into December. So again, visit www.earthecho.org to see our entire lineup and to register. So be sure to stay connected with EarthEcho International on all of our social media channels, as well as our website. And I want to, again, thank our wonderful STEMExplore mentor, Shavonti Archer. And I do want to thank United Technologies for their tremendous support. On behalf of EarthEcho International, thank you for tuning in and keep exploring.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.